Welcome to Medico Stuff. Now we'll today learn about the arterial supply of a brain and the spinal cord at lecture 2. In lecture 1, in previous video, I tell you these branches, these main arterial branches and their blood supply to the specific areas. You can see this video in description. Now we'll discuss about the main arterial supply of a brain, the arterial network in the brain, that the main arteries are present in the brain. We'll discuss about them. So first of all, discuss about the main arterial. Now you can see these two vertebral arteries. These two vertebral arteries come from downward, and which gives the right and left vertebral artery. Now the right and left vertebral artery give us the anterior spinal artery. You can see precursor. Then this is the anterior spinal artery, which is formed by the two branches, sub-branches of vertebral artery. Now the posterior inferior cerebellar artery and this posterior inferior cerebral artery is also the branch of the vertebral artery. Now two vertebral artery goes upward and join to form the basilar artery. So this is the basilar artery. This is the basilar artery, which is formed by the joining of the vertebral artery. Now basilar artery give us the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. So posterior inferior cerebellar artery is the branch of vertebral artery, and anterior inferior cerebellar artery is the branch of the basilar artery. Now the basilar artery gives some small branches known as the pontine artery. So these small branches are the pontine artery, which supply the pons and is supplyable a specific area of the brain. You can see in another video. Now upward of basilar artery give us the superior cerebellar artery. The superior cerebellar artery is also given by the basilar artery. Now you can see in pink. In this pink you can see precursor. It is the circle of Willis. Now this main branch of is known as the posterior cerebral artery. You have to differentiate between cerebral and cerebellar. This cerebral artery is for the cerebrum. Now you can see the posterior cerebral artery and this middle cerebral artery. This middle cerebral artery and posterior cerebral artery are joined by the posterior communicating artery. You can see in pink. This posterior communicating artery is in the role in the formation of circle of Willis. You can see in pink. Now the middle cerebral artery is in red color, and this pink is black. This is known as the internal carotid artery. So this pink is the internal carotid artery. You can see large artery, internal carotid artery, and this is the posterior communicating branch. Now middle cerebral artery gives furthermore branches like this is opthalmic artery. The branch of internal carotid artery is opthalmic artery, and you can see the lower branch known as the anterior choridal artery. This is the anterior choridal artery, and this is also the anterior choridal artery. Now this internal carotid artery gives the posterior communicating artery, which joins with the posterior cerebral artery and forms circle of Willis. Now upward are two anterior cerebral artery. These two anterior cerebral artery also gives the anterior communicating branch or anterior communicating artery, which join with the internal carotid artery and complete the circle of Willis. So the circle of Willis is formed by the anterior communicating artery, posterior communicating artery, and internal carotid artery. This is the circle of Willis. It is lie on the brain like that. It's like the brain like that. You can see the main arterial supply of the brain. You can see these two vertebral artery, anterior spinal artery, and basilar artery, pontine artery, discussed already, posterior cerebral artery, posterior communicating branch, internal carotid artery, ophthalmic artery, middle cerebral artery, and anterior communicating anterior cerebral artery. These are all we have discussed. Now it's coming like that. You can see the picture coming like that. No need to learn, but for concept like common carotid arteries gives the external carotid artery, internal carotid artery upward in the brain, give the further broad branches. Then the vertebral arteries you can see coming upward. Now we will discuss the most important question like coming in a past paper 2013 annual, that blood supply on the lateral and middle side of the cerebrum. This is the lateral side of the cerebrum. You can see the lateral side of the cerebrum, the arterial cerebrum. That is the cerebrum. Now the main artery coming is known as the middle cerebral artery. The middle cerebral artery first of all give first branch known as the anterior temporal artery, supplies the temporal region. Now it divides into two division, upper division and lower division. This middle cerebral artery divides in upper division, lower division. Temporal artery, middle area temporal, it gives the temporo-occipital artery, supplies the temporo-occipital area, and then the end branch of the lower division of the middle cerebral artery as the angular artery, supplies the angular area, angle of the cerebrum. Now the upper division gives the main branch known as the parietal artery for the parietal area of the brain. Then the post-central artery supplies the post-central gyrus, and this gives the central artery like the center of the cerebrum, and it also gives the precentral artery supplies the precentral gyrus area of the cerebrum, then the prefrontal arteries for the prefrontal area, and then the small branch directly come from the middle cerebral artery known as orbitofrontal arteries for the orbitofrontal area. The orbitofrontal artery and anterior temporal artery are the main branches which come from the middle cerebral artery. Now we will discuss the arterial supply on the medial side of the cerebrum. You can see the anterior part of cerebrum is the anterior cerebral artery. This anterior cerebral artery comes and give first branch the orbitofrontal artery. This is the orbitofrontal artery and which supplies the orbitofrontal area. Now you can see this is the close. I mean in skin. Now it gives branch known as the periclosal artery that lies just above the corpus callosum. This is the periclosal artery. This periclosal artery gives us small branches known as the closal branch. Now at the margin of the corpus callosum you can see the closomarginal artery. The closomarginal artery, this is the closomarginal artery. You can see my cursor. This closomarginal artery gives the polar frontal artery. Now we will discuss the posterior side. Now the posterior cerebral artery have two main branches, divisions, the medial branch and the lateral branch. The middle branch gives the end of the cerebellum of the corpus callosum named as closal branch. It also gives the parieto-occipital artery which is the parieto-occipital area. It gives the calcarine artery which is by the calcarean fissure. Now the lateral branch. The lateral branch gives occipitotemporal arteries by the occipitotemporal area. Then temporal branches by the temporal area. This is all about the medial side arterial supply of cerebrum. Now we'll discuss about the arterial supply of our spinal cord. This is vertebral artery, and two vertebral arteries sub-branches come to form the anterior spinal artery. This is the anterior spinal artery in the middle which supplies the anterior two-thirds of the spinal cord. And these two branches you can see in the wavy shape. These two branches are artery. The posterior spinal artery supplies the 1/3 of the spinal cord. And now there are small branches which reinforce and help the anterior and posterior spinal artery, and like these are the posterior radicular artery and spinal medullary arteries. These come small branches from the segmental artery and also supply some part of the spinal cord or small area of spinal cord. You can see this is the anterior spinal artery, this is the posterior spinal artery, and 2/3 of spinal cord supplied by anterior spinal artery and 1/3 by the posterior spinal artery. And there are small branches like medullary arteries and the central artery. This all about the arterial supply of the spinal cord. So we have discussed all about the blood brain lecture 1, lecture 2. I have tell you the main branches, then their further branches, then they supply in 2 videos. Let me in next video. Till then, take care.